This is ABC Radio Melbourne with Ali Moore.
So, have you got a side hustle? Maybe you're thinking of taking one up. Sort of extra opportunity. Maybe you drive a ride share on the weekend, or you run a business when you're not at your day job. Maybe you've got a question about what you should think about if you're thinking about picking up a side hustle. Give me a call, 1300 222 774. John Georgiowski is the Director and Principal Consultant at Alpha Resumes. John, hello.
Hi, Ollie. Welcome to. Great to be back. Sorry.
You can welcome me.
I'm welcome to be back.
Side hustle. What do we mean by a side hustle?
Good question. I guess a side hustle can be a bit different for different people. For some, it might be a way of bringing in a few extra dollars. Times are tough. We know interest rates are high. And for a lot of people, that means it can be a necessity to work more than one job. For others, it could be a way of exploring some of their creative side, or maybe trying something new. They might like making art or see something as a hobby, but if they can monetize it, great. It takes up some of their time as well.
So start small before you necessarily, throw in the day job.
It can absolutely be a good way of trying things out as well.
Oh. Matt's joined us from Wonthaggi. Hi, Matt.
Hey, Ellie, how you going?
Yeah, good. What are you doing?
I started lawn mowing on weekends.
Great, Matt. And how long have you been doing that for?
Oh, probably about a year now, I reckon.
So you've got a full-time job during the week?
Yeah, so I work during the week, an office job, and then my wife, we fell pregnant a couple of weeks after she lost her job, so I decided I'd sort of go out and try and, help make ends meet. As you're saying, interest rates, just absolutely went through the roof. And so, yeah, we just really needed the extra cash.
So, Matt, for you, it was something that you were able to do, and it was about bringing that cash in and being able to support your family as a necessity.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And as time goes on, you sort of, as you do with any job, you make mistakes and you learn things, but, all part of the experience.
So Matt, I get that you're sort of now working probably 6, maybe 7 days a week, but do you like it? Do you like the freedom to have been able to do something else?
Yeah, it's good. I think at the start it was more like I felt like I had to do it. And then as time went on, it sort of does, it felt a bit more enjoyable, getting out into the sunshine as opposed to the office and that type of thing.
Yeah.
And, people are great to deal with.
I like that. That's a really good one. That's like, I suppose, John, that's a really what Matt's doing is a really practical response to your circumstances.
It definitely is, and for a lot of people, that's why they're doing a side hustle or a second job to bring in some cash. Something we need to be very mindful of, especially if we're working full-time, though, are things like tax implications. So by the time we take out tax, being a second job, which is often taxed higher, and then any equipment or running costs and our times, we need to make sure that we've actually done the maths, and if it's profitable, whilst it's one thing to have that cash flow there when we need it, which is important for families, sometimes when we get to tax time and start to add things up, we go, did I really work for nothing? And he also mentioned the toll that it can take on family. Young families, if we're working 7 days a week, it can lead to burnout. That can lead to family stress as well. All things that we kind of need to consider before we just jump into doing something.
So when you think about the tax implications, are they that severe that you might be, let's say you're working a couple of hours on a Saturday and Sunday mowing a lawn. Is it possible that would, increase your tax obligations so much that you would feel like you're virtually working for nothing?
It very often can be, and quite often when people pick up some of this work in their side hustles, they're using platforms like Airtasker where people post a job there, and it's a bit of a race to the bottom. Businesses go on there, put a price on there, or individuals go on there and say, I'll do the job for this. Then by the time that platform takes out fees, and then people forget that, I do need to declare that income. It will be reported directly to the ATO when you're taking up that sort of work. Then your costs in running that, very often there's very slim margins there. So it's something to just consider a little bit.
And although not condoning any of this, not saying, but a lot of people's side hustle will be cash in hand, surely.
And absolutely. And, it's something, there's a difference between a hobby where we can maybe make something for a friend and something that's business and that is reported. But again, a lot of side hustles now, particularly when you're using tech platforms, that income will automatically be reported. And even if you forget to include it in your tax, you will get that surprise, or it will be auto-filled by the ATO and they'll know about it.
Karen's in Blackburn. Hi, Karen.
Hi. I had a question with regards to should you put this on your resume? So I have a daughter who runs a side business. It doesn't take up a lot of time. She's just finished her degree and looking for full-time work. So we have that on her resume at the moment, but I just don't know whether or not, in your opinion, you might feel that an employer would look at that negatively rather than a positive.
Yeah, good question.
It is a really great question. And again, we'd need to look at what type of business perhaps it was that she was running and whether there's some relevance there. Quite often if we're dealing with customers, there's going to be certain elements that we may be able to incorporate. The other thing is the positioning of that, rather than right at the start of the document, I run this business, where someone looking at it could go, oh, this person's priorities are somewhere else. Maybe putting it towards the end under extracurricular or other activities where we can talk about that as well and the skills that we've gained from it. So really positioning is vital there.
Karen, is your daughter, what she does, is it sort of relevant to what the work is that she wants to do in the end? Like, could it be seen as an asset?
No. It's not the same industry, no.
Right. Interesting, because I would have thought, John, that there's a sort of with any business there'll be some sort of crossover because it requires commitment, it requires, planning, it shows a certain dedication to working hard. It's just a question of how you frame that so that, they don't feel that they're going to be competing for your time. Yeah,
I very much agree, and I work with individuals all the time and they might go, oh, I really like doing this. So I do some woodwork on the weekend, but I work in the office. Well, you know what? That's a creative way of them being able to get some stress out and also being able to have to problem solve and do things. Often when we deep dive into some of our creative outlets or other talents, we can link them up, but it's about how we position that.
We're talking side hustles here in our Work It Out conversation with John Georgiowski. If you've got a question or maybe you've got an experience to share, give us a call, 1300 222 774. Rob's joined us from Ringwood. Hi, Rob.
Oh, hi. How are you going?
Good.
For about the last 15 years, I've been working for the CFA, and I go out and teach local community groups about staying safe in bushfires. I work full-time as well, so it's mainly weekend work, but occasionally on the evenings. So I do street corners, school halls, local community halls, that sort of thing. I'm also a CFA volunteer as well, but this is paid work.
Great. So it's something you're passionate about that you can also be paid for as well, Rob?
Yes. Yep. Yeah. So it's really interesting, and you never know what sort of questions you're going to get thrown at you as well. It's a very, very interesting, and it changes over time. It's changed over the last 15 years as to what people are going to ask you about. Yeah.
I love that. So that's made everything much more rewarding, Rob.
Yes, yeah. It's great that you can go and talk to people and hopefully you make a difference. You help keep them safe, because every year, of course, you get bushfires in Victoria. We're one of the most bushfire-prone areas of the world. And I really enjoy doing it. I do it sometimes for my brigade, and that's an unpaid position as well, as a community safety officer.
Good on you, Rob.
I enjoy doing both.
Yeah, look, thanks for telling us about what you do. I do have a text here from from Anna, John, saying, my side hustle is family logistics and running my household. Fair to say it's not a profitable gig, but no less rewarding for that. Yes, I know a lot of people
100% can feel the same with renos going on at home and all sorts of things. It can take its toll, and good on you, Anna.
Yes. Question here from Naomi. How do you find out what insurances you need when you're setting up a side hustle?
That is a really good question, and something we need to be mindful of when we are setting up a side hustle. Often people think, I'm good at being able to do this, so I know how to go and do that. But if something does go wrong, there's potentially insurance ramifications if we don't have ourselves protected. There's a lot of industry bodies out there, depending on the type of work you're doing. There's a lot of regulations in certain industries too, when we start looking at areas like building and construction, where you do need to be licensed to do works over certain values.
What about if you just reckon you're pretty good around the house, so could you be a handyman? You know,
Absolutely.
I'm saying handyman, handywoman, whatever, but, you know, you could offer your services. Can you do that without any sort of, you know, regulatory background to you?
You possibly can, and look, a lot of platforms out there, like your Airtaskers and sites, do have insurance built into their platforms. However, it's worthwhile, as somebody going to start that side hustle, having a look into that and go, what am I actually covered for and what could go wrong here? When we start a business, we have a business plan. When you're starting a side hustle, at least a mini business plan to some extent, outlining what the pros and cons are and what you need to consider before starting up.
So if you're doing something like, one of the most common side hustles for people is doing things like driving a rideshare when they're not working. Do you need insurance for that sort of thing? Like, especially if you'd be using your own vehicle, or is that part of the platform that you might be on?
Yeah, good question. Again, when you're driving on a rideshare platform like your Ubers, you will need to have comprehensive insurance for your own vehicle. Uber has certain insurances and other platforms that do provide some level of coverage, but they have a fairly stringent sign-up process. While it's very easy to become a driver, they will ask for insurance, they will ask for driver's accreditations and various other things. So you've got to get those checks and balances in order. Platforms sometimes help us do that so we know what we need.
So what is the biggest, if you were just saying to someone who's thinking about a side hustle, biggest thing to be aware of, biggest potential negative?
I think there's a lot of positives and negatives, but from a negative side of view, often it's doing the maths. If it's something that we're really passionate about, and I love making art or baking, then go and do it. It's not about the money. But when something starts to accelerate, we spend a lot of hours there and we work out that we're doing stuff for friends but not being paid properly, then we really need to sit down and go, is this really worth it for me?
Yep, do the business plan, as you say. Might be a small one, but at least do the maths.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for coming in.
Very welcome. Always a pleasure.
John Georgiowski there, Director and Principal Consultant at Alpha Resumes. Coming up